Software stocks have been losing significant value over the last 12 months, especially in the last 2 to 3 weeks. It's been a very steep decline for many of them. ServiceNow, one of the historically darlings of software investors, is down 50% over the last 12 months, despite posting better than expected earnings. Salesforce, down 40%. Adobe, 35%. Even my previous employer, Unity, lost 35% in a single day because Google released Project Genie, a AI tool that helps you build game-like worlds instantly with AI. The S&P North American Software Index dropped over 15% in January alone. To put that into context, that's the biggest monthly drop that index has seen since January 2008. You know, the financial crisis. So a lot of people are ready to call time of death for SaaS companies. But is that a little premature? Or do we even know what's actually going on and what the future looks like? There is an underlying transformation that's happening right now in the software industry, and investors are reacting to it. But when we talk about the death of SaaS, I feel we're missing the point. The companies that are losing value significantly on the stock market, on the whole, they're actually doing well as companies. Their revenues are increasing, they are posting profits, renewals are still happening, guidance isn't falling through the floor. The reality at many of these companies is that their day-to-day operations aren't being massively disrupted by AI like the doomsayers say. Business continues as usual. But then the question is, why are the investors dumping these stocks if the businesses are fine? It's good to remind ourselves that investment isn't about where we are today, it is about the potential return of the future. I don't think the fundamentals point to these companies not necessarily being able to provide growth and future returns. I think what's happening is that there's so much uncertainty about the value produced in the future by any software company and what shape that takes. It's good to remember that investing is the current change we see in the industry, or even more the uncertainty in the industry is we don't exactly know what value creation in software companies will look like longer term. So I don't think it's as much about the lack of potential in these companies, rather investors being wary of the value creation shifting and the ability of these companies to transform to account for that shift. It is driven heavily by AI, but not because AI is disrupting the industry right now, but because no one really knows how in 5 years from now AI will have disrupted the software industry. So in that sense, I do think the market is directionally right in selling software stocks because they don't know. The market doesn't like uncertainty. But I think the notion that the software stocks will become not as valuable because AI eats their bread and butter, I think that's where we're going to be a little bit wrong. So I don't think it's as much AI kills SaaS, rather AI forces it to figure out how does it need to adapt to be valuable still in an AI-driven world. When it comes to SaaS, it's important to make a distinction between different kinds of vendors and providers. If a SaaS vendor provides value mostly by being a simple workflow tool with good usability and flows for the user, but not much in depth of domain and business expertise it can provide to you through its software, then yes, it is probably in trouble. However, most valuable publicly listed companies that are software vendors are not these simple workflow tools. They are more on the segment of deep domain experts. Now, not all fit that description. Let's take Monday.com. It's an interesting company, which is essentially a combination of a CRM, ticketing system, pretty much everything. But does it have deep domain knowledge and business processes underneath that are hard to replace? No. So some of those companies might be in trouble. Most won't, because the value was honestly never the user interface. Take Salesforce. You could easily argue that the user experience of Salesforce is a negative on its value, because anybody who's used it extensively will probably tell you it is not the greatest thing in the world to use. But what these tools have that is valuable is what lies beneath. It is the codified logic, constraints, compliance, business logic, rules that have been built into the software over years that you don't have to think about and figure out on your own to run your business. This is what's valuable. Let's take NetSuite as an example. A tool, again, that's not necessarily super fun to use, and yes, I've used it myself, but provides immense value because it takes care of so many things, so many nitty-gritty details around finance operations to make sure that you are running a tight ship. It contains that decades of knowledge of how you should operate finance. This is where the value is. That value, again, is harder to replace. All of these things are much harder to replace with AI. You can't vibe code that stuff. You probably shouldn't, nor will there be very quick value to you if you try to replace those systems with custom implementations done with Claude Code or similar. So again, why are these companies losing value if I just said that they remain inherently valuable to their customers? Big part of the reason of this shift is because SaaS companies will need to adapt how they are used. Even if they have value, the use of these companies and their services will change. More and more are we going to move into a world where users of a SaaS provider's features is not a human being. It is going to be more and more an AI system that interfaces with that SaaS provider. That changes how these companies need to operate. They need to put their APIs first. They need to design for agentic use cases and ensure that they are truly robustly built for that. Some are ready, some are not. It will also change how these companies can price themselves for customers. Historically, SaaS has done its pricing based on a per user per month model, but what if the users are no longer human? What if you have one AI agent that does everything? Well, are you going to charge for one seat? Probably not. That would be terrible for you as a SaaS company. So it needs to change, and they need to come up with a different business model. Is it API usage limits, some kind of metered billing, storage, whatever it is, they need to figure that out. And that's going to be a difficult transformation, and some companies might find themselves in a situation where they can no longer bill as much from the companies as they previously would. And I think this is one of the risks that investors are seeing. Could be that they do see that company being around, but they're able to extract less revenue from an individual customer. Their average customer value will go down. We'll find out, but it is something that they have to be thinking about and pushing towards, because the world where we're in and have been for the last decade, where we as humans are constantly using multiple SaaS tools, is over, at least to an extent. So this is really where it gets tough for the incumbents, is being able to survive this transformation. We don't know yet how that's going to pan out. Those who can lean into it will do better than others. There is going to be a set of companies that will try to cling on to the old model of humans as primary users. They will not probably fare well, or then their product needs to be specifically tailored only for humans to get value out of. There is a very fascinating and exciting part, at least for me personally, and I should be upfront. This part I'm excited about because it is something that we're actually building. The reality is that if we move to this world where we have AI use tools and run your processes more than before, as we move into this world where more and more of your operations are handled by AI, we are going to have to figure out what does that look like for companies to actually run that. How I see the future forming is that we are going to, of course, have still people in the workforce. I think the predictions around mass unemployment are a little bit overstated right now. So I see it as humans still being in control, interfacing with the SaaS providers with AI in between these two. This is where I think the big transformation will happen in how we operate. That does mean that there needs to be something between the humans and the SaaS providers that allows them to orchestrate all of this, to run their agents, figure out how do we describe business processes. I've begun in conversations calling it the AI platform layer. I'm not a huge fan of that term, but running with it until I figure out a better one. But the purpose of that AI platform layer is to be that robust platform for companies to deploy and operate their AI solutions. This doesn't quite exist yet at a larger scale, but there is a lot of activity around it. And we're building in that space. We might not be the one to figure out how to do it, but somebody will. It is a space, it is a new vertical in how companies operate and what they need that is being created right now by the massive transformation we're seeing companies moving toward AI. I firmly believe this AI platform layer is going to be a massive part of software operations in companies going forward. Kind of bringing all of that together. Depending on where you sit, the world and the chaos might look a little bit different right now. If you're building in SaaS, honestly, I think the best bet right now is to figure out how is your product great being used through the APIs. What is the value you can provide to customers and their AI agents or other manifestations that is not easy to replicate? And then push towards that world, because that is going to be where we're headed. Conversely, if you're on the other side trying to figure out what SaaS vendors to use, do your homework and figure out how equipped are these SaaS vendors that you want to work with to be able to support any AI operations your company will need to do in the future. Because if you now lock in with a contract with a SaaS vendor only to realize that 6-12 months down the road, you're asked to figure out how AI agents use that tool and can't, that's not a great place to be in. Especially in larger companies, these vendors, you want to enter into a long-term agreement with them because switching costs are absolutely real. The short of it is that SaaS isn't dying, but it is transforming and is going to be a rough ride for some players in this space. There's a massive amount of hype, fear, and uncertainty on all of this, which is clouding our ability to get shit done, honestly, right now. Somewhere behind all of that noise is the real world, and it is going to be more and more driven by AI. If all of this resonated, these are the topics I talk about on my channel. So if you want more insights in AI, operationalizing it in companies, what this means for software stocks, do subscribe because it feels nice to get feedback. Do feel free to leave me a comment if you thought that there was anything insightful here. And of course, if not, well, tell me that too so I can get better.